All right, glad to have you with us on this Friday night edition of the show. On the eve of the rest of week 3 in the NFL. Keeping an eye on a whole bunch of things over the next 3 hours, but namely over here in the final few minutes of the Yankees-Red Sox game. Yankees leading 5-4 in the top of the ninth, but the Red Sox threatening. And it's one of these weird things when you watch, because you want to see Aaron Judge get another at-bat, and I think he'll bat second in the bottom of the ninth if the Red Sox somehow tie it. So there's a bunch of Yankee fans at this game who are probably hoping the Red Sox tie it, just so they can see Aaron Judge get another at-bat, because so many people paid so much money to go to this game tonight. $47,000 to be exact at Yankee Stadium. So we'll talk about that, keep you up to date on what's going on in that game, which is going on over my left shoulder on the right corner of the screen if you're watching us on the video feed of the show. It's blurry, and it's that way on purpose. We'll talk about Ime Udoka in this hour. We learned a bit more today about his season-long sort of indefinite suspension. We'll get a sense for what's going on in that story coming up here in just a few minutes. And also an interesting story involving Aaron Judge that was revealed today by another former major leaguer and a Major League Baseball analyst. We'll talk about that. Could Judge have actually been playing somewhere else this year? How close was a deal to happening? And what team did Judge almost wind up with, according to this one Major League Baseball analyst? Alex Marvez will stop by the show. Sirius XM NFL radio host, former colleague of mine back when I was with Sirius a million years ago. He's still there. He's also a host with AEW. We'll talk with Alex Marvez later on in this hour, about a half hour from now. So we got a lot to do. Stay with us. Keeping tabs on everything going on in sports, live lines, all of that good stuff as we continue with the Cash In. I'm Jason Page. Thanks for being with us on Sports Map Radio. Hold on one second. If you want my body and you think I'm sexy. Yo. You there? No, not you. I was talking to Vlad. I know you're there. There he is.
Yo. Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Okay. Oh, let me turn this off.
Yeah. Sounds like a party.
Yeah, horrible Katie knowing. It's not her, by the way. She's not bad.
Who?
It's actually the other guys. Katie Nolan. She's not that bad. It's the other guys.
She's just window dressing. I can't take it.
It's the other guys, really, man. The other guys are horrible. This guy.
I don't think Hunter Pence. I don't think Hunter Pence is terrible.
No. Not Hunter, but the other, the main guy.
Steven Nelson.
Dude, did you see how you almost fucked up?
No, hold on. Come back. It's a final. Yankees beat the Red Sox 5-4. Red Sox threatened to tie the game or more in the ninth, but were unable to do so, and that means no Aaron Judge at bat in the ninth inning, which means he stays stuck on 60 home runs, which also means all of this hullabaloo over the last 2 days about, well, the game's on Fox, and now the game's on Apple TV, and Michael Kay can't call it. Oh, my God, what are we all going to do? How do we possibly survive? Well, it all meant nothing because there was no Aaron Judge home run in either of those games. So, much ado about the epitome of much ado about nothing. So that's what you got there from the Yankees and the Red Sox. So we learned a bit more today in the Ime Udoka suspension that came down from the Boston Celtics. Learned a bit more. That the Celtics, had an outside investigator come in and look at all of this. That they obviously deemed it something serious enough that they had to do that is also very telling. The problem that I have right now is the Celtics are giving you all these breadcrumbs. They're leading the trail rather than just tearing the Band-Aid off. And I have never understood how people that work professionally in PR or communications or crisis communications or crisis PR, I have never been able to understand the mindset of, hey, let's just do drip, drip, drip. Remember, it started the night before they suspended him. It was the drip, drip, drip. We're gonna give you a little bit here. Well, he's being suspended. Something happened. Nobody knew what it was. Then it was, an inappropriate relationship. Then it was consensual sexual relationship with somebody in the organization, somebody associated with the team. And then it's, we had an outside investigator come in. Then the reports come out that it's not this person, but we're not going to say exactly who it is. And then you get Matt Barnes today coming out and revealing that he had talked to some people and he knows, it seems like Matt Barnes knows a bit more about exactly what is going on in this situation. And when Matt Barnes says this is a lot more serious than people know and people realize, I think he said 1,000% or 100% more than it, because originally he was saying, well, what's the big deal here? And people I've talked to have said, what's the big deal here? But there is one missing piece from this that seems to be causing just more questions. And again, the Celtics could eliminate all of these problems right now. The Celtics could eliminate all of these issues right now. Just tell us everything. Tell us everything. You don't even have to give us names. Just tell us everything, because there's also this whole conversation going on about, who's the woman involved? Why can't they reveal her name? Nobody was sexually assaulted. This isn't some rape shield thing. It's two consenting adults. If he's getting suspended, is she? Because she is obviously just as culpable. Or is he in more trouble because he might have leveraged his position of authority for this relationship? I don't know. And I'm tired of guessing, quite frankly. Because that's all we're doing at this point. We're just guessing as to why The Celtics have suspended a head coach that just took them to an NBA final for an entire year. And some people are saying, well, if they were going to do that, they should have just fired him. Now they're basically saying it's an indefinite suspension. Take the year off it. He's basically suspended indefinitely. And they may or may not bring him back at this point. And if I'm him, if I'm Ime Udoka, I probably just walk away at this point. I don't see why him and the team didn't just come to the conclusion that, you know what, this is not salvageable, and I'll just walk away. But you get Matt Barnes out there saying this is a lot more serious, and now we're all sitting here on the edge of our seats waiting for the next shoe to drop, when the Celtics could simply come out and put out a statement without, again, I mean, God, the government does this all the time. You can redact certain information. You don't have to give us every lurid detail. Because eventually, with all of these stories, let's put bets on this right now. We love talking about the lines, right? We love talking about betting lines on this show. I would bet $1 at donuts right now. The details of this thing are going to come out eventually. And you know when they're going to come out? Probably somewhere during the season. And you know what that's going to lead to? A huge distraction for the Boston Celtics organization when they don't want it. If you're the Celtics right now, you're in complete control of how this gets disseminated. You're in complete control of how your organization is perceived. You get a chance to sort of write the story on how all of this plays out. And all they're doing is screwing it up. And I can't understand for the life of me how professional companies, organizations operate in this manner. I just don't get it. But we see it time after time after time. And this is just the latest example. I'm also curious to know in this, and I haven't really seen it in any story. I haven't really seen, is the NBA involved in this at all? Has the Celtics organization reached out to the NBA at all in this? And sought guidance, suggestions? I mean, is the league going to sanction the Celtics? Or is this completely an internal matter? There's just so much information that is still missing. And I watched this morning on one of the talking head shows on one of these sports networks. Or one of these loudmouths is out there lending his opinions, and then somebody counters and they go back and forth and that sort of thing. And I've seen people in the Twitter sphere, and Twitter is handled, let me tell you, Twitter NBA has come out of this looking so bad. With the speculation of names being put out there, people having to rein that in. I mean, when Brad Stevens drops a swear word during a press conference, you know he's angry. And Brad Stevens did that earlier today. He was ticked off because names started to be mentioned, and, you know, people are getting dragged through social media. Well, was it this person that slept with him? And all of a sudden you start looking through a directory. All right, look, who are all the females in the organization? Was it this one? Was it this one? Have we ever seen them together? And I guarantee you people around the team know. I said this with Kurt Heelan last night. People around the team, people that cover this team for a living, that are there 82 games a year, plus the preseason, plus the postseason, they know. They know who it is. I've been around professional sports teams enough. Nothing stays totally in-house. When you've got a media that's covering you around the clock, you know it's going to get out there. But I'm at a loss for words for how bad the Celtics have handled this so far. And look, maybe we're going to find out something in the days or weeks ahead or months ahead that reveals why they've been so, sort of vague in their descriptions of what's occurred. Maybe it's just that bad that it can't be said by them. But it's going to be said somewhere. You can bet your bottom dollar on it. Somebody's going to say it somewhere. You want to be a part of the show? Want to talk about it? 800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. You can also tweet at the show at any point at the back page. Send me your thoughts on Twitter at the back page. Let me know what you think about this Ime Udoka situation. A lot of people are still up in arms over the fact that a guy having an extramarital affair, granted, but a consensual sexual relationship between two adults is being suspended for a year. And while I'm puzzled by it, I'm reserving judgment on that aspect of the suspension because I don't know everything that's happened here, and neither do you. And neither do a lot of people. The people who are most quiet in this story, in the media, the big name basketball writers and national people, the ones that are staying quiet are probably the ones that know the most and aren't able to say what they know. Maybe because the Celtics have told them to keep quiet. Maybe because they're friends with certain people. Sports journalism isn't like regular journalism. They're not the same. I'll explain what I mean. And Harold Reynolds throwing a pretty interesting story out there today that I want to talk about with regard to the presumptive AL most valuable player, Aaron Judge. We'll get into that as well. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. Tweet at the show at the back page. Executive producer Vladimir Lewisant is here. Our producer in Houston tonight is Austin Rodriguez. He is pushing all the buttons there. Glad to have you with us on a Friday night edition of The Cash In at Sports Map Radio. All right. Going to be interesting.
What?
How this keeps sort of dripping out. Somebody's going to say something.
Nah, bro. Listen, man. It's easy. He fucked somebody he wasn't supposed to fuck. Like he fucked.
All right. Easy with all the F-bombs on the stream. You get me in trouble when you do that.
You tell me. You should have told me you were on the stream. Jeez.
Of course I'm on the stream.
Not all the time.
Well, only if we're talking about things that are,
Oh, look at the great Jim Mueller.
What was I going to say?
Dude, he was clearly involved with somebody he wasn't supposed to be involved with, and she clearly wanted to do the same thing. And I know what you were talking about. You were talking about the Stephen A. Smith and Malika Andrews, and she kind of jumped the gun.
She overreacted. I don't. You know me. I'm always one to jump on.
I know
Stephen
you don't
A,
defend Stephen A. But I'm going to defend my boy. She jumped the gun.
No, I agree.
And guess what? Nobody said anything about that, and nobody disclosed any names. It's whatever people started posting pictures. And like you said, it's Boston's fault of the way they handled it, because the way we found out about it was Woj, right? Woj saying that they're going to suspend him because of wrongful whatever in the organization. I told you when you read that, clearly he's sleeping with somebody that he's not supposed to. Because if it was something else, they would have just came out and said he was doing something. They would have just came out and said what he was doing. If he was, it's not like he's stealing money from the organization or anything like that, but they would have just said it. But when you're doing that, then that means you're protecting people. And if he's not being protected, why is she being protected? This is not a rape case. This is not a sexual.
That's what I'm saying.
No, this is her name should be also mentioned. Because this is
I just really wonder, and I don't know if anybody asked it today, was she suspended too?
No, but that nobody knows about. That's what it's saying. Nobody knows who got suspended. The only person, nobody knows who else got suspended. Nobody knows who the person is. The only person they know is Ime. Was it wrong to speculate who the other ladies were? Yes,
of course.
But what you're starting to see is, and I think a lot of people know, Udoka was doing nastiness. Like the nastiness he was doing was to the level that people are like, yo, this is crazy. So when you hear Matt Barnes finally figuring out what's going on, I think Stephen A knows and doesn't want to say anything because he keeps on saying this is all Udoka's fault.
Coming
they
back.
Know what
Hold on. Yeah, Matt Barnes definitely has some intel. See, the trouble with eating food during the breaks is when you start choking on something as you're coming back, and Austin says, your mic is hot, and I'm literally just choking on a mushroom or something in my mouth. That's what happens. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004. You can also tweet at us at the back page. And also this reminder, if you tweet at us, if you follow us on Twitter, and then you send me a tweet, you're automatically entered to win one of our giveaways that we do on the show every Wednesday. It's all the motivation you should need to follow me on Twitter. Chance to win cool free stuff. Alex Marvez, Sirius XM NFL radio host, coming up in about 15 minutes. Also does a great job on AEW. We'll talk with him about a whole slew of different NFL matchups from the weekend coming up. Get his thoughts on some of this weirdness in this Green Bay-Tampa Bay matchup. And the Packers got some bad news on that front with Sammy Watkins being hurt and not being able to play this weekend. It just goes on and on, man. So we were talking about this story about Ime Udoka, and I was going to say something. Remember what I was talking about, Vlad? I lost my train of thought. I was going to mention there was something
you expect more to come out. There's no way something like this can be kept quiet.
No, there's no way. There's no way. But there was something else I wanted to throw in, and I can't remember what I said before the break. And that's what happens when you have like multiple brain injuries. You forget what you teased. But it's like I said, this is not the end of this story. And one aspect of it, and Vlad and I were talking about it during the break. If you watch us on the stream, by the way, I love that you listen to the show. On Sports Map Radio, one of our affiliates across the country, or the Sports Map Radio app. But if you watch the stream, a lot of times we leave the mics hot. And Vlad and I just basically continue the show off the air. And we were talking about it, and it's this idea that, and I'll throw the two names out there because it was pretty prominent on social media today, this debate between Malika Andrews, who hosts NBA Today on ESPN, and Stephen A. Smith, and they got into it pretty heated because Malika Andrews thought that basically Stephen A. Smith was suggesting or shaming the woman that was involved, obviously, with Ime Udoka. And Stephen A. Smith shut that down real fast. And anybody who knows me knows I'm not a big Stephen A. guy, but he's 100% right. He wasn't trying to shame this woman or anything like that. His only point is, if you're mentioning Ime Udoka and the fact that he's been suspended, how are you not, as an organization, addressing the woman that my mom used to have a saying, it takes two to tango. She wasn't forced. Everybody has acknowledged this was a consensual sexual relationship between Ime Udoka and somebody else. So why is she being shielded? If he didn't force her, there's no crimes being alleged here. You want to say there was an HR violation because he had a relationship with somebody in the organization, anything like that? Fine. But I'm trying to figure out why the female in this is being protected while Ime Udoka is being dragged, and rightly so. And I'm not saying the female needs to be dragged per se, because nobody cares, frankly, who she is unless she's somebody very prominent within the organization. I don't think anybody's going to care. But it's the fact that this woman is being shielded, this adult female who got into a consensual sexual relationship with Ime Udoka is being shielded, has a lot of people perplexed. And that's why I keep coming back to the fact that there's got to be a missing piece, a big missing piece in this story And Vlad and I keep talking about it, and we're going back and forth, and we're trying to figure it out. But and I think we've just hit a point in this story where we just don't know enough beyond what we've been told by Brad Stevens. And again, the Matt Barnes thing today is sticking with me because when Matt Barnes, who's kind of one of the NBA bad boys, when Matt Barnes gets out there and says this is bad, and he happens to know the details, and when Matt Barnes says it's bad, then it's bad.
I'm going with the rumors, all right? And the rumor is he was told to stop and continue, and they found out he continued.
But then why not? Then why not just again? If that's the case, the Celtics could say that.
If that's the case, then he can get fired. Then you can fire him.
Yeah, but I'm still not understanding why the Celtics as an organization wouldn't reveal that detail.
What happens? Okay, let me ask you this: what if he was having a relationship? They found out that he was having a relationship.
Yes.
And told him to stop, and he tried to stop. And I'm not trying to just not putting any blame or anything, but the relationship continued because the other person wanted to still continue having this relationship. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Then you want to figure out, because if you tell me something as my, if you were my boss, you tell me something and then and you say, Vlad, stop doing it, or this might, this might have more ramifications, and I continue doing it. You have all the power to do whatever you want. So right now, suspending him and then doing a more thorough evaluation where, therefore, if you do let him go, you have the reasons and can explain it. Because that's what you're saying. Well, you said earlier that you think more is going to come out. We'll probably figure out what really happened during the middle of the season, and it could really affect the Celtics season, because who knows where they're going to be at that time during the season. They still consider the favorite after all of this. So anything can happen. But I think the reason why they're doing all of this is because they're trying to follow the right protocol. And this is why the NBA is probably not involved, because this is such a personal matter. This is not a matter this is a matter involved within the Celtics organization. This is something outside.
Yeah, the drip. What doesn't make sense to me is the drip, and the fact that they're keeping some details that they know. And again, an outside investigator came in. When you find out that an outside investigator came in and for several months has been working on this investigation, the Celtics know everything. I don't think it's a question of, hey, do we need to learn more? They know everything that's happened. They're choosing to keep some of these details private, and they're saying because it's a personnel matter and all that stuff. But again, they didn't care. And I get the fact that you have to reveal Ime Udoka because of the fact that he's the head coach of the team. There's no way to keep that aspect of it private. I still just don't understand why we're not finding out about the other half of the story. And again, maybe it's to protect the identity of that person. I don't know.
I think the person has a prominent position in the organization.
Yeah, I guess. Must be. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 on Twitter at The Back Page. If you want to hit us up there and let us know what you think of this story, you're more than welcome to do so. Was Aaron Judge almost traded to the Angels? Well, if you listen to the likes of Harold Reynolds, if you buy what he's selling, then yeah. Harold Reynolds said on a recent show that he was on, the MLB Network longtime analyst, during a live look-in this week, said that the Yankees almost made a deal with the Angels in spring training for Aaron Judge. Wow. The deal was basically done. Wow. And guess what? Shohei Ohtani wasn't part of the deal.
What about Mike Trout?
I don't think he said who was involved in the deal other than Aaron Judge. But
you just know that Shohei was not involved.
He just knew that Shohei was not part of the deal.
Connecting rooms were not confirmed.
Exactly. So that's kind of it's kind of interesting when you think about where we are in the season, that this deal almost happened and that Aaron Judge almost wound up in an Angels uniform.
I need more than that, Jason.
But I mean, I wonder how much of that Judge knew until Harold Reynolds said it, if it's true, and how much animosity or acrimony that created between the Yankees and Judge in this whole contract dispute too.
If it's true, because I like to know what the Angels would be giving the Yankees back. Because it's not like the Yankees, it's not like Brian Cashman and Hal Stern.
Yeah, and it's also not as if the Angels have a dearth of talent in their farm system either. Stick around, we'll come back. Alex Marvez is going to join us. We'll get some thoughts with him on the NFL and more as we continue with the Cash In on this Friday at Sports Map Radio. I can't right now. I got to get this interview ready. Driving me nuts.
What?
Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Let's bring in Alex Marvez. He's kind enough to give us some time tonight, talk some NFL. Does a great job on the NFL with SiriusXM, also with AEW. Alex, the big game this week is obviously and the Packers, along with the Dolphins and the Bills. Just on this Dolphins, this Buccaneers matchup with the Packers, I'm fascinated because it's. Welcome back to this Friday edition of. Welcome back to this Friday edition. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Let's bring in Alex Marvez. Enough to give us some time tonight, talk some NFL. Does a great job on the NFL with SiriusXM, also with AEW. Alex, the big game this week is obviously the Patriots and the Packers, along with Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Let's bring in Alex Marvez. He's kind enough to give us some time tonight, talk some NFL. Does a great job on the NFL with SiriusXM, also with AEW. Alex, the big game this week is obviously the Patriots and the Packers, along with the Dolphins and the Bills. Just on this Buccaneers matchup with the Packers, I'm fascinated because it's the first time we've seen these two teams going up against each other, or these two quarterbacks facing off against each other, and nobody really knows what to expect offensively from these two sides.
Well, right. I mean, and listen, for Tampa Bay, especially because of all the injuries that have hit this team, you think about, you're going to be down to your third string left tackle in Brandon Walton because Donovan Smith is unlikely to play and Josh Wells is out. So you've got that. You got Mike Evans, who suspended one game because of the altercation with Marshawn Lattimore, and now Chris Godwin also officially ruled out. And you got three other wide receivers listed as questionable in Russell Gage, Julio Jones, and Rashad Perriman, not to mention the fact Leonard Fournette, questionable as well. So what is this group going to look like? But I think what's even more intriguing to me, out of all the defenses that I've seen this year, and we know Buffalo has been fantastic, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers right there with them. And it was all those draft picks a couple of years ago by Jason Light that are really paying dividends now as players like Jamel Dean, he comes into his own. I mean, Antoine Winfield at safety. I mean, these are just impact players. Carlton Davis. I can go on. And, you put that with obviously Devin White, getting off to a career year. And I'm curious, what is Aaron Rodgers going to be able to do? No Sammy Watkins this week. It looks like Alan Lazard is going to play, but that offensive line, a little bit shaky, to be quite honest with you. Even though they played better against Chicago, I'm still not completely trusting that group yet. And Aaron Rodgers, too, by the way, has traditionally struggled in the heat. When he comes down to Florida, usually it's not a good result. So I'm going to be very curious with this one. I really think it's more of a defensive struggle that we're going to be looking at, even though we're talking about Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers commanding the headlines.
Is the Brady finger thing anything to you? The fact that it wasn't on the injury report all week and then it pops up today, is that telling us that there is something a little more to this?
I think that the Bucs are smart by covering this and putting it on there with him. And, it will be taped, and we just have to wait and see. Now, Brady, the fact that he did a video, it's online, you could see it, seems to, I don't want to say make light of it, but, the fact that he's talking about it, let's just put it like this. There are other injuries that Tom Brady has suffered that he's not going to get into. He got into this one. So I think that'll tell you his level of concern with it. But again, something happens in a game where his finger gets busted open or something to that effect. Yeah, it can be a concern. And the fact that it is on the injury report would give you some pause, but I don't think we're going to be seeing Blaine Gabbert anytime soon for the Bucs. I think it'll be Tom Brady. Hopefully, if you're getting his way through this one.
Bills, and it could be the last time we see these two quarterbacks go against each other, obviously, unless they face off in the postseason. Talking with Alex Marvez, SiriusXM, does a great job on the AEW broadcasts as well. Alex, a thought on this Bills matchup with the Dolphins, and maybe the Dolphins are just getting them at the right time in Week 3. I know the Bills' offense has been very good, but the Ed Oliver injury, we know the Dolphins can sling it around. Are we looking at a really high-scoring game here? And what kind of a chance do you give the Dolphins?
Yeah, well, I mean, this just depends upon how much progress Tua Tagovailoa has truly made. And I say that because you think about the dominance that Buffalo has had against this Miami Dolphins team since Josh Allen has been their quarterback. I mean, he has never lost to the Dolphins. He is 7-0 against them, 23 offensive touchdowns and just 3 interceptions. And I'm not sure if that's going to change. I think that this Bills offense is clicking, but you mentioned Ed Oliver. Micah Hyde is also out. You got Jordan Phillips, who's been such a key part of that run defense. He's going to be out. Dane Jackson suffering that scary neck injury on Monday Night Football. Fortunately, he's okay, but he's not going to be able to play. So those are 4 key defensive players who are out for the Buffalo Bills. And maybe Tua Tagovailoa now is going to be able to get going because in his previous 3 matchups against the Bills, he's only completed 56% of his passes, only thrown 1 touchdown, had 4 interceptions with a quarterback rating of 59.8. This is where I'm so curious to see if the Dolphins were able to get something going in the deep game like they did against Baltimore, against a Buffalo defense. Listen to this stat here, Jason. They have not allowed a deep touchdown pass since the season finale in 2020 against the aforementioned Miami Dolphins. They have gone more than a season now without allowing a deep touchdown pass. So we'll see if the Dolphins are able to get Hill or Jalen Waddle sprung to be able to cause the type of damage that they did against the Ravens.
Everybody's probably over the shock now of Trey Lance getting hurt and Jimmy Garoppolo being back in what is once old is new again in San Francisco with the 49ers. They get Denver this week. George Kittle's going to be back on the field for the 49ers. It gives another tool, obviously, for Garoppolo at his disposal. Can you see this 49ers team sort of rallying around him now? And a lot of people think that with Garoppolo, this team is a threat to make a deep run into the postseason. Are you a buyer on the idea that Garoppolo could still take the 49ers to where they want to go to?
I am, and this is not a knock on Trey Lance. Here's the thing, Jason. With Trey Lance, it was the great unknown, right? We just didn't know and you can't judge what you saw through the first game plus as what Trey Lance was going to look like in week 9 or week 13. As he continued to grow as a player, obviously he was going to get better. And this 49ers team that's battling some injuries, as you know, you mentioned George Kittle's absence, Elijah Mitchell being out now at the running back position. That's been a mess for them as well. You know, Jeff Wilson Jr. did a nice job last week against Seattle. But you get my point here. Like, there have been some mitigating factors as far as Trey Lance. But with Jimmy Garoppolo, you know what you have. And when you talk about players rallying around him, Jimmy G is one of the most popular players in the locker room. I mean, I've talked with Deebo Samuel about this. And, you know, Deebo had it's only positive things to say because he told me around the Super Bowl time, it's like people don't know how injured Jimmy Garoppolo was last year. And yet this guy kept showing up week after week after week. Now, that being said, there is no more safety net as far as the quarterback position goes. And Jimmy G has had a hard time staying healthy during his NFL career. Knock on wood, he's able to get it going. But I like this. And maybe Deebo Samuel is going to benefit from Jimmy Garoppolo coming back as well. Deebo only 7 catches for 58 yards through the first 2 games. Those are un-Deebo-like numbers. Yeah, I know he's doing some things in the running game, but he's got to get going. I do like San Francisco in this game just because until Denver's Nathaniel Hackett shows me that he's ready to become an NFL head coach, how can I think that the Broncos are going to win this game? I mean, you have so many mistakes that are going on that are just, you know, game management standpoint, delay of game penalties, even when you're at home, not having the right, you know, false starts, not having the right people on the field and having to call timeouts, decision-making. It has been a disaster so far for Denver's first-year head coach. I mean, to the point that you just sort of wonder if this thing doesn't get turned around quickly, is he going to get a second year with the Broncos? Because this thing has been just such a debacle. And you could tell Russell Wilson, he sort of got to get it going too. I put a lot of this on Hackett, but Russell hasn't exactly been playing his best football either. So big game for the Broncos here. And if they're able to win, they'll silence the noise. But otherwise, there's going to be a lot of folks just wondering what the heck is going on with Russell Wilson, with Nathaniel Hackett, and the Broncos organization.
Well, speaking of a lot of noise, the Colts have obviously been facing it with what's happened to them over the first 2 weeks, a tie and a loss, and really a team that just hasn't looked all that competitive at times. And it's not going to get any easier for them this week at home against a Kansas City Chiefs team that is firing on a lot of, if not all cylinders. How much danger do you think Frank Reich is in at this point?
You know, so this is an interesting question because, you know, for better or for worse, the Colts always end up better at the end of the season, right? The problem is that they usually dig themselves in such a hole early in the season that they're not really in contention to be, you know, a number 1 seed or anything like that, or sometimes even win their division. So if they're 0-2-1 after 3 weeks, I mean, it's honestly not that huge a shock when you just consider the Colts' history of slow starts, and Frank ultimately gets them turned around. Let's also remember, too, that their best defensive player, Shaq Leonard, he is out. And, you know, when he comes back, that's going to provide a huge boost for a defense that's, you know, really struggling to rush the passer right now. But it's messy. There's no question. And it's interesting because you talk about how, you know, they give this vote of confidence in the offseason to Frank Reich and Chris Ballard. Jim Irsay gives them contract extensions. I mean, does he want to be paying guys to not work for the next 3-4 years? I don't know about that. I think he's going to give them time. But obviously going 0-2 for a second straight season isn't pretty. The problems in the passing game that are happening with Matt Ryan, I mean, who right now is off to the worst start of his career. I mean, actually since his rookie campaign in 2008, 4 interceptions in the first 2 games, 1 touchdown only. That's not great. One thing to note, though, Michael Pittman Jr., Alec Pierce will be back for Indianapolis. But if they have to get into a scoring race with the Kansas City Chiefs, this is not a race they're going to win on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree with you. If before the season we had polled people and said, how many of you think the Giants will be 2-0 after the first 2 weeks of the season, I don't think many hands would have gone up. Give me an argument that what they're doing right now is for real and sustaining.
Well, this is the interesting thing, right? I don't know how real and sustaining this is. I can tell you Saquon Barkley looks a heck of a lot better, right, for this Giants team. But, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, they didn't exactly, you know, they beat Carolina at home, barely. And we see that Tennessee right now is really a shell of the Titans team when, you know, when their window of opportunity may have closed with that division round playoff loss to Cincinnati last year, because obviously they're completely out of sorts right now. The game against Dallas will be a really interesting litmus test to me, because the Cowboys defensively with Micah Parsons and the tear that he is on rushing the quarterback, I mean, more sacks through his first 18 career games than any player in NFL history since sacks became an official stat in 1982. That is significant. Cooper Rush is coming into this game with confidence. Michael Gallup will be back. That is a big boost for this Cowboys receiving core. But I think this will be a better test of where the Giants are at. Listen, I look at this roster. It's not a great roster. They're still transforming things. I mean, and they're also trying to weed players out. For example, Kenny Golladay. I mean, just because they're paying him a lot of money doesn't mean he gets on the field. I mean, he has caught 39 passes in 16 games and has earned $24.2 million in the process. Not a bad salary if you can get it. He chirped this week. He said he should be playing regardless. That's a fact. But you know what? New management, they don't care. They want to get players on the field, so they have an undrafted college free agent, former West Virginia quarterback David Sills, getting 64 snaps at wide receiver compared to Kenny Galladay's 2 last week against Carolina. I think as much as anything, it's a culture change. It's teaching this Giants team how to win, and Brian Daboll right now has done that. You are seeing incremental improvement from Saquon already. I think Daniel Jones has looked a little bit better. We'll see as everyone gets comfortable with Daboll and the new coaches and the system that they're playing. I don't think that they're a team that's probably going to fade at some point, but who knows? Maybe they can start the season 3-0 if they can upend the Cowboys on Monday night.
Alex Marvez does a terrific job on Sirius XM. Been listening to him there for years, worked there for years when he was there, also with AEW. Congratulations on all the success. Hopefully you can talk down the line throughout this NFL season. Thank you, sir.
Jason, take care, my friend. Be good.
Always good to talk to Alex Marvez. And if you miss anything from the show, by the way, I mean, hopefully you obviously just heard that. But if you miss anything from the show, don't forget, check out the Cash In podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcasts. Just go and search for it, the Cash In podcast. And we take a few segments from the show every day, and you can listen back to it. So it cuts out all the segments maybe that you don't want to hear. Because let's face it, other than my family, who would listen for 3 hours? I don't know. I don't think anybody would. So thanks again to Alex Marvez. Good to talk to him. It's been a while. And also he does a great job on the AEW broadcasts too, and they had a big week. So good to talk with Alex. Next hour, we'll get some thoughts with Kadri Ismail. Does a great job on the Ravens pre- and post-game, NFL analyst, longtime NFL wide receiver. We'll talk to him about the Ravens. That's coming up in the next hour of the show. We also have Paige's Picks tonight. And if you haven't been paying attention, well, you should. I'm 6-3 through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season. I was going to call myself 5-3, but producer Vlad said I'm allowed to take an extra win because I made a prediction on Sunday in the revised Pages Picks. We do Pages Picks today, and then on Sunday I create a video for social media, and sometimes I might throw in a different pick depending on whether a line has changed or not between Friday and Sunday, and lines move all the time, so that's a possibility. All right, we'll come back, wrap up this hour, tell you what we got coming up for hour number 2 of the Cash In. It's Sports Map Radio. So, Austin, segment 1, the first segment where I talked about Udoka in this hour, that and the 2 interviews tonight. If anything else pops, I'll let you know, but probably just that. Hey, Austin. In the next hour, I'm going to play this Matt Barnes audio. I don't think he swore in it, but just be ready to have the dump button ready in case.
Who, Quadri?
No, Matt Barnes.
Oh. Well, I mean, if you're taking his IG or what he's put on IG or Twitter, yeah, he's probably
Yeah,
gonna
but
curse.
I don't think he did. I watched it earlier,
Well, if you watch it early, you wouldn't
but
say
I don't
that.
remember every single word.
Well, then.
Oh my God! We'll be right back. Hold on. I am so cranky tonight. God. Thank God it's the end of the week. I don't think I could handle another show if we had another one this week. I'm feeling cranky today. Not gonna lie. Next hour of the show. Thank you, by the way, to Alex Marvez for coming on the show. Been a while since I had talked to my old colleague from Sirius XM Radio. In the next hour, I want to talk about the George Kittle return for the 49ers. And I want to get into something a little bit off the beaten path, something a little different that you may not hear anywhere else. It's about fairness in sports. That's all I'm going to tell you. It's about fairness in sports. We'll do that coming up. Kadre Ishmael will join us from the Ravens pre- and post-game, former NFL wide receiver, NFL analyst. I think he used to work on the game broadcast, too, back in the day, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, now he does the pregame.
Yeah, didn't he used to do the games with Jerry Sandusky?
Yes, now he does the pregame.
Not that Jerry Sandusky, but a different Jerry Sandusky. Just want to make that clear.
The voice of the Ravens.
The voice of the Ravens, Jerry Sandusky. Exactly. Yep, exactly. Yankees won earlier tonight, 5-4. There's a whole bunch of games of relevance to the wild card races that we can update you on coming up in a couple of minutes as well. I'll tell you what, my Baltimore Orioles keep hanging around. They keep hanging around.
Forget your Orioles. Next hour, I want to know what you're going to say about Mr. Justin Herbert missing practice on a Friday.
I do have something. I actually was going to get to that in the third hour, but I didn't send you the rundown, so you wouldn't know that. But yeah, I do plan to talk about Justin Herbert. Stick around. We're coming back. More of the cash in another hour right around the corner on Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. Yeah, the one night I don't send you the rundown, which I don't even know if you look at it. But yeah, I
do look at the rundown when you send it.
Yeah, I have that to start out. I have that to start hour 3.
I just saw it right now, and I'm like, oh, wait a minute. You not missing a practice on a Friday. That's big.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to second hour starts right now on Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. Kadri Ismail. I keep saying it wrong. Kadri Ismail. And I know how to say his name, but I always want to say Ismail when it's Ismail. Kadri Ismail will join us. Hopefully I get it right when we're interviewing the guy. Kadri will join us coming up in about 30 minutes, 35 minutes. We'll talk with him about the Baltimore Ravens and a lot going on there with this team. A lot of injuries that they've had to kind of battle through over the first few weeks. So we'll get into that and kind of get a sense and it's an interesting question to pose about this Ravens team. And that is, was last Sunday a blip on the radar and just an anomaly in this crazy confluence of things where they cough up this huge lead in the middle of the fourth quarter to the Dolphins? Or is it something more concerning as it relates to what's going to take place over the rest of the season? I tend to lean towards the fact that it's more of a blip on the radar. This isn't something that's going to happen every week to this team. I think they're going to be fine. But it is definitely something that you have to, kind of take on the surface. And as you look ahead to the weeks ahead for this team, offensively, and look, they don't have J.K. Dobbins, which has basically meant no running attack whatsoever. And I think getting him back is going to be a huge addition. They won't have him back this week, but when they do get him back, I think it's going to be a big upgrade to that offense that, your leading rusher every single game isn't going to be Lamar Jackson. Because they got to run the ball. I mean, you cannot have Lamar Jackson in a position where he's got to handle the ball for, 55, 60 plays every week. We're going to come back, talk about sports not being fair. What do I mean? I'll tell you as we continue on the Cash-In. Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app, 800-224-2004 if you want to weigh in. Stay with us. Yeah. Damn. Okay. I can't play it.
Yeah, I told you he was cursing.
What did you say, Vlad?
I told you there was cursing.
Yeah, there was one S-bomb, he said. I wonder if it was like they were having sex in the offices or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, Yes, it does on this Friday. If you're not following us on Twitter, make sure you do at the back page. If you do, just send me a little note. You will automatically be entered to win one of our giveaways on Wednesdays. But you got to be following me on Twitter at the back page. You're automatically entered to win if you follow me there. By the way, interesting note out of that Yankee win tonight. Aaron Boone tossed from the game along with Garrett Cole for arguing balls and strikes. And right before Cole gave up a 3-run home run to Alex Verdugo in that game on a 2-2 pitch, he threw what he thought was strike 3, started walking off the mound. It was called a ball, and the very next pitch, Verdugo hit it out. How many times do you see that happen? Happens all the time. And then after the third out of the inning was made, he walked off the mound. Umpire stared him down, of course, because umpires are got to be tough guys. It's all about them. Because 47,000 people are going to Yankee Stadium to watch the home plate umpire. Cole called him out. He got tossed. Then Boone got tossed for what feels like the 12th time this year he's been tossed. Sports isn't fair. Now, look, there's a lot of segments of society where life isn't fair. But when people try to compare, and you often see this in the sports media, where people will try to compare, real life to sports, or, corporations or jobs and how they handle things in sports. And the reality is, it's not a fair comparison. The reason I bring this up, how I get from point A to point B here is a little bit circuitous, so you'll have to kind of stay with me. But George Kittle is back this week for the 49ers when they play the Broncos. And if you're a 49ers fan, you're obviously thrilled about that because Kittle lit up the Broncos the last 2 times that team played. So he made it through practice this week without any issues, and he'll be on the field this weekend for them, which is obviously great for Jimmy G and the 49ers as they try to go to 2-1 on the year. However, it's one of those things where I can't help but, and maybe it's just the softy in me or the sensitive side or the caring side of me. Yeah, that side does exist, believe it or not. That feels for Trey Lance. Because Trey Lance hasn't had a healthy team around him since he, came to start. Week 1, didn't have Kittle, playing on a crap field. He was basically playing on a slip and slide for the second half of the game. And they were missing Elijah Washington. I mean, this team has been banged up. He hasn't had the full complement of guys around him. So again, we have no real idea as to whether or not Trey Lance is capable of being a starting quarterback in this league or with the accessories around him that the 49ers have. And it got me to thinking today about the fact that sports, there just is no way to make it fair. And I'm not talking about rules. And yeah, sometimes in that regard, there's a lack of fairness that exists. But I'm talking about just the general success-fail ratio and how it relates to so many things that are out of your control. As a manager, as a player, even sometimes as a general manager. There's one constant in sports, and it's that there just is no level playing field, so to speak. Who you get drafted to and who owns your rights. And I know that's such a terrible way to say it because it makes athletes sound like slaves. But who owns your rights when you're a professional athlete, when you get drafted, can dictate so much about the next 20 years of your life. Well, if I hadn't been drafted by this team, how might it have been different? Yeah, you can make the decision to say, I'm not going to report. You can pull an Eli Manning and wind up with the Giants. I mean, you could do that sort of strong arm move if you're that highly touted, but those things are few and far between. John Elway did it with the Broncos. Or with the Colts, I think, in that case, right? I think he was drafted by the Colts, if I'm not mistaken. So, I mean, and he wound up, holding out and winds up with the Broncos, and the rest is history. But so much in sports just simply isn't fair. Justin Fields gets drafted by the Chicago Bears. Well, if Justin Fields had been drafted by a team with a better group of surrounding talent, does his story wind up different? And you can go down the list of guys that have failed in this league and some guys that have succeeded in this league just simply because, they were drafted onto second base, so to speak. They were drafted onto third base. They were drafted by the right team with the right culture and the right organization. All these different things that a lot of times as a player you don't have control over. And now you look at the career of Trey Lance and you'll start asking yourself the same question. Had Trey Lance been drafted by a different team and a different situation, does the whole thing turn out different? I don't know. It's all a huge what if. I get it. But you can go throughout the history of sports and have these sorts of conversations about different players. Sports just isn't equitable that way. It's a crapshoot. And yes, you can do your best to make yourself the best player you can in a bad situation. But in team sports, you're so limited by what is around you. Even Russell Wilson, who's, a guy that I think some people would consider someday will be a Hall of Fame quarterback. There's a lot of people that I think would lean that way when you think about his career thus far. Even Russell Wilson, who winds up now in Denver with the Broncos. Gets traded away and winds up in Denver with the Broncos. Well, if you don't have a great head coach and you've got a former offensive coordinator who's kind of working with a new offensive coordinator, and he's not calling plays, and he doesn't know how to handle the big game situations, there's only so much you could do as Russell Wilson. You cannot force him to put you on the field in a 4th and 5 or a 4th and 6 instead of kicking a 63-yard field goal. Players sometimes are at the mercy of the situations they are placed in and have little say on how those things wind up. Like I said, look around the history of sports. I'll even go back to Charlie Batch. I always use him as an example. If Charlie Batch had been drafted to a different team in the NFL, I think his career trajectory is completely different. I think he was a talented quarterback. Josh McCown in Arizona with the Cardinals. Josh McCown was a good quarterback. That team stunk. They couldn't keep him upright. He always got hit. David Carr. Look at David Carr's career. Drafted by the Texans. Wasn't he the first player ever drafted by the Texans, if I'm not mistaken? Look at that situation. Again, most sacked quarterback throughout the time he was in the league. Sometimes you just don't have a chance, even if you're talented. And the difference between making it and making it sometimes has little to do with how good you are. Go to baseball. Yankees got this kid, Miguel Andujar. Almost won Rookie of the Year. I think he was runner-up his first year in the league. Talented player. Guess what? Nowhere to put him. Yankees didn't want to make room for him. He's languished in the minor leagues for the last couple of years. Yeah, he's had some injury issues, but he's languished in the minor leagues because the Yankees don't have anywhere to put him. They're not making space for him. What becomes of the rest of his career? Does he get a shot somewhere else? You see it throughout sports all the time. So it's easy to sit here on my show or any other show, and we hear guys talk about bums and guys that fail out of the league, who's a draft bust. And sometimes they might happen to mention the situation that those players are drafted into. Sometimes they might happen to mention some of the ancillary things around a team or around a player that cause him to fail. But 9 times out of 10, we're blaming the player. Is it really? Can you definitively say, based on what you've seen out of Justin Fields in, 12 or 13 games now, is it really fair to call him a bust? Is it really fair to say he's not a good quarterback? How do you really know? If he was surrounded by the talents that some of these other guys have, if you put Justin Fields, I don't know the answer to this, but if you put Justin Fields with Josh Allen's talent around him, is that team still a playoff team? Is that team still a contender? What would that team be? You certainly would view Justin Fields differently, though, if you saw him surrounded by guys that could actually run routes, catch balls, create space, So it's easy to sit here and bang on guys. And we do it all the time on this show. I'll be the first to admit it. But when I thought about the George Kittle story, and Jimmy Garoppolo's coming back, and he's got Kittle back, and Trey Lance never even got to play with him this year. It's just kind of it's the inequitable nature of sports, and there's just no way to fix it. It is what it is.
Garoppolo did take Lance did take all the snaps during preseason, and Kittle was there with him.
Yes. But again, it's preseason.
It doesn't matter.
Of course it matters. Some guys play great in preseason and suck it up in the regular season. So of course it matters.
What I'm saying is Garoppolo never had any snaps with Kittle or any of the guys. He was quarterback number 4 in the depth chart.
No. I'm just saying, but Garoppolo has a history and has played with these guys. I'm not comparing. I'm not comparing it from that perspective.
It's not. I don't think it's about being fair. It is what it is. I mean, sports doesn't.
No, that was my point. Sports is not equitable. Sports is not equitable. Not everybody gets the same shot. And I wonder how many guys, when their careers are over, have to sit there, time after time and day after day. Because remember, the career, we think of athletes' careers in 15 years and 14 years. That's just a sliver when you're talking about living for 80 years or 85 or 90 years in your life. And you've got to sit there when your career is over at 35, 40, 32, 33, whatever it is, and try to wrap your head around what your career was. And I wonder how many of these guys have to sit there and say, man, if I had just ... or man, if I had been in this situation ... We just talked about it last week or maybe earlier this week with Dan Marino, where even he acknowledged, man, if I had left when I was a free agent, could I have won a Super Bowl? Which tells you this stuff sticks with these people years and years after their career is over. There's no fairness to it, though. That's just the nature of sports. It's not equitable. We'll come back. 800-224-2004. If you've got an athlete you could think of, I'd see if I could think of some during the break. Guys that, if they had been in different situations, big name draft picks, could it have wound up different? I'll try and think of a few. 800-224-2004. 800-224-2004. Hit me up on Twitter as well, at The Back Page. Again, on Twitter, at The Back Page. We'll continue with more of the Cash In at Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app.
That's not that tough. That's not tough at all, man.
Huh?
That's not tough at all.
Is this a true story?
What? Oh, Pujols hit at 699.
Oh, did he?
Oh, did he hit 700? I think he hit 700.
Yeah, it was 700.
Wow, he hit both home runs tonight. Wow. Well,
what'd you say? What'd you say, Austin? Wow, he got to 700 before Judge got to 61.
What if Judge hit 61 today? That means Apple TV would have gotten everything.
Yeah, could you imagine? Let me see, Albert.
They would have gotten Pujols 700, and he did it against his former team, which is great.
All right, I got 700 here. Hey, Austin, I want that segment, that last segment. I want to put that in the podcast. Thanks.
I'm a sick individual.
What'd you say?
I'm a sick individual.
Why?
What happens if a guy hits, like, say this happened, right? And this is in LA, right? But say this happened in, I can't be in Florida. Say this happened in a stadium, right? Outside, an outdoor stadium. It's 5-0 in the fourth inning. What if there's a rain delay? What if the game is postponed to rain? Do you continue the game the next day from where it started, or do you just?
You're saying a regular season game.
Say that Pujols hit his 2 home runs today, but in his mind you, this is the top of the fourth.
Oh, you're saying if it happened before the 5th inning and it got rain, and then rain came in.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's a wrap. That would not count. Doesn't count if it's not an official game. If it's not an official game, then no.
So the only way a game continues if it's already official and they want to continue it from where it began?
No, if it's already through 4.5, the home team and all that stuff.
Right.
If it's tied after that, then they do a resumption of the game.
What if it's a 3-2 game?
No. Stand by. Hold on. Stand by. Hold on. Well, I have to tell you, if you had given me odds on whether or not Aaron Judge would hit 61 before Albert Pujols hit 700, I would have taken that bet. I would have definitely taken Judge to get to 61 before Pujols got to 700. And if you would have taken that bet, you would have lost. Because Albert Pujols tonight did not just hit 699, he made history.
He drives this one. It's deep to left, and that is 699 for Albert Pujols. A no-doubter puts Pujols 1 home run away from 700.
All right, so that was number 699, I apologize, on Apple TV earlier tonight. Dave Winfield was in the crowd. And by the way, that game was in Los Angeles. It sounded like it was in St. Louis. Unbelievable. The fans are just going crazy for Pujols. All right, here is number 700 tonight, also on Apple TV.
Pujols sends one in the air. It's deep to left. Taylor's back at the wall. It's 700. Albert Pujols has joined the 700 home run club.
I don't know who was calling it, but that was kind of cool. I didn't get to hear the whole call because they stopped it as he was going around the bases, but that was a pretty cool call. And you could tell it wasn't scripted, a la Michael Kay. Wasn't scripted. It's a good call. Pujols at 700. Can we pull up, what are his numbers for the year? Because it feels like he's had a really good year. My goodness. Am I nuts? Or is he having he's having like a renaissance? He's hitting 261.
266 now.
Okay.
Up to date because he's 2 for 3 with 5 RBIs.
I mean, it's crazy. I wonder if I know people have probably asked him this a dozen times, but he's got to be having second thoughts.
No, leave you on top. 266,
he's got a chance.
21 home runs.
But if you got a chance to break the all-time home run mark,
no, he doesn't.
Don't you do it?
No, he doesn't. No,
261. I don't know if this is counting tonight, but 19 and 53, or if that's not up to date. I'm not sure if now it's 21.
266 and 21 home runs and 58 RBIs.
That's just bonkers. He's 42 years old. I mean, he'll be 43 in January.
What's the record?
I gotta get
What's the home run record?
750 something. Pretty sure it's 750 something. His Bonds. I thought he kind of obliterated the 715. Let me see.
Obliterated that.
Well, hey Google, how many career home runs did Barry Bonds have?
762. Forget Google's. Vlad is
7. So, well, then why'd you ask me if you knew the answer? 762. Pujols 266, 21, and 55 this year. That's great. It is age 42 season. It's just bonkers. How many at-bats has he had? Because I'm sure his at-bats have been down, because I knew they were using them in more like platoon situations.
So sweet, so crispy. Nobody makes breakfast as good as Wendy's.
This? Sorry. Ads popping up. He has 200, and that's in 283 at-bats this year, Vlad. 283 at-bats. He's doing that.
He's a DH.
Could you imagine, though, if you gave him a full season, could he still hit 35?
Well, here's the question.
So 766 is the number, is that what we just said? He'd have to play two more full. He'd have to play. He'd have to play for
He would have to
two
play
more.
another 3 seasons.
Yeah,
he can't play 3 years.
Well, I mean, as a DH, he probably could.
He can't play 3 more years, man.
As a DH?
No. He's not playing 3 more years. He's not getting 62 home runs.
Can't average 20 home runs for 3 more years? I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought he'd have 21 and 270 at bats this year?
Easy. If it's your final season, you're back home with the team that drafted you. You're back in familiar surroundings.
That doesn't change the fact that you're still 42 and,
I'm living life and everything's new. I'm back in my surroundings. Everything's honky-dory, man. I'm enjoying it.
I think he could. I just don't think he cares to hang around that much longer. But we'll never know. But he had 700. 700. What a number. 700 home runs.
Did you see his numbers prior to this season?
Oh, they were terrible.
Okay, then.
They were terrible.
So, yeah, you go back, everything's good. That new feeling, it's like that new car smell. Everything's good, man. Everything's new. Then reality sets in. You realize you're a 42-year-old man.
Yeah, but I mean, if that was going to happen, if he had hit, had a burst where he hit 10, I mean, my God, August and September, he's been old Albert Pujols. And even if you want to make the argument, well, a short burst. I mean, for basically 2 months, he's been Albert Pujols. I mean, it's off the charts, man. But I mean, you've got the two ends of it with what Judge is doing in this single season at the age of 30 in a contract year, and all of that stuff has been fun to follow. The Pujols thing is just, again, it's off the charts for a completely different reason. With what he's accomplished in his age 42 season. I don't think anybody before the season started would have said he's calling this his last year. He's going to get to 700. I don't think anybody thought he was going to get to 700. Again, especially if you do look at his most recent years and playing in a part-time situation. He's going to get 300 at bats this year. That's certainly not a full-time player. I wonder if the Cardinals even try to coax him into coming back. If they try to get him to come back. I don't know. It's just it's interesting. I mean, because there are going to be a lot of guys walking from that team. They're losing a few stalwarts from that organization between Yadier, him, and I think Wainwright's probably going to walk after this year too. This might be it for Wainwright. So there's definitely some sentimental. Sentimented. Is there a sentimentality? How would you say that word?
Sentimental?
Yeah, no, I know sentimental, but I don't know. Is there sentimentality? I don't know, but there's definitely some sentiment that people would like to see. This Cardinals team be able to do something special in the last year of these guys, and they're going to be in the playoffs, so they're certainly going to have an opportunity. All right, quick timeout. We'll come back. Qadry Ismail, see, I say his name right. Qadry Ismail will join us, former NFL wide receiver. Handles the pre- and post-game on their local TV side back in Baltimore. Talk to him about the Ravens and more as we continue. Friday edition of the Cash In on Sports Map Radio. Stay with us. All right, you're clear. Yeah. Welcome back to this Friday edition of the show. Let's bring in Alex Mar. No, let's not and say we did. Continuing on this Friday night edition of the show, one of the big storylines from week 2 were teams that couldn't hold leads.
I got the
Some
interview on this
monumental
side,
collapses.
like
One
the
of those
last
was in
segment, I'll bring it
Baltimore,
up.
where the Ravens fell apart in the fourth quarter. Dolphins able to come from behind, get a big win there. And the Ravens will be sort of one of the big storylines throughout the season, obviously, with Lamar Jackson and company. Lamar Jackson, contract year, all that good stuff. Let's get into it. They get the Patriots this week. We talk about it with former NFL wide receiver Qadry Ismail, who joins us here on the show, does the pre- and post-game locally in Baltimore on WJZ. Qadry, talk a little bit about the Ravens. They've never won a regular season game in Foxborough, which is kind of interesting. Why does that change this week?
Well, I think first and foremost.
Continuing on this Friday night edition of the show, one of the big storylines from week 2 were teams that couldn't hold leads, some monumental collapses. One of those was in Baltimore. Continuing on. Continuing on this Friday night edition of the show, one of the big storylines from week 2 were teams that couldn't hold leads, some monumental collapses. One of those was in Baltimore, where the Ravens fell apart in the fourth quarter. Dolphins able to come from behind, get a big win there. And the Ravens will be sort of one of the big storylines throughout the season, obviously, with Lamar Jackson and company. Lamar Jackson, contract year, all that good stuff. Let's get into it. They get the Patriots this week. We talk about it with former NFL wide receiver Qadry Ismail, who joins us here on the show, does the pre- and post-game locally in Baltimore on WJZ. Qadry, talk a little bit about the Ravens here. They've never won a regular season game in Foxborough, which is kind of interesting. Why does that change this week?
Well, I think first and foremost, this team, I believe after coming off a really kind of weird loss where they had a epic fourth quarter meltdown, they're prepared to right the ship, if you will. I know this is going to be a good test for Lamar Jackson and company offensively, but I think the story is more defensively in what the Ravens and their secondary primarily can do against Mac Jones, who I know is not the most fleet of foot. And I believe that if, in fact, they can get that upfield pressure like they did in the first game against Joe Flacco and the Jets, I think this will be a game in which they can have a little bit of redemption.
Was the Sunday collapse at home against the Dolphins, to you, more of a blip on the radar, or is there something more to be concerned about as we look ahead for this team? To me, it seems more like the former than the latter.
Well, I think the blip on the radar, I mean, every game has its own personality, and I think if you're a bad football team, then your personality becomes set in stone and you wind up having inconsistent play. If you are the Baltimore Ravens and you feel like you are a good football team, it's about, making sure that you are assignment, sound. I think, from a fourth quarter collapse standpoint, a Kyle Hamilton, for example, is a rookie who you just got to realize when you are playing that deep third, it's the deep third, and you got to know who the personnel is as well. You got to know a Tyreek Hill is not going to, settle and run an underneath route. He's going to be taking the top off the coverage, and if you settle, the quarterback's going to read it, and it's going to be a big play. So those are fixable things. I don't see it as sloppy football so much as just got to know your assignment and trust one another. I think this team is a good team. I think they have good chemistry with one another, and let's see if they can get that, nice bounce back that they're deserving of having.
Qadry Ismail joining us here on the show, former NFL wide receiver, pre- and post-game host, co-host locally in Baltimore. The team's been banged up a bit last week, but seems to be improving from a health standpoint. What is the absence, and I know they're still without J.K. Dobbins and Ronnie Stanley, and in particular with those two guys, what is their absence meant for this team?
So I think for J.K., the running game has been non-existent. Outside of Lamar Jackson, who has had some phenomenal runs, including a 79-yarder, the running game has just been stalled. And, Mike Davis, he's, come in to kind of shore up things, but he's just been okay. You had guys where they've had holes open, but then you could see where the push of the defensive player really has collapsed the hole, whether it be on the right side or the left side. So I think overall, it doesn't matter if it's Kenyon Drake, doesn't matter if it's Justice Hill, it doesn't matter if it's Mike Davis. Without J.K. there, without Ronnie Stanley there, you just don't see that same, just dominance that they've been accustomed to as far as running the football.
A little bit on Jason Pierre-Paul. They made some news this week. I think they had even talked to him a bit in the offseason. They bring in the 33-year-old at this stage of his career. How much of an impact can he make right away?
Well, it remains to be seen. I know they're not going to have him available right away because of the fact that he's going to be, finalizing the deal and whatever that entails. I think it was reported as 1.5 plus some incentives, but yeah, they're going to finalize it, and hopefully we'll see him out there. I know John Harbaugh talked about, guys that will, be brought in and play. It's about whether or not they're ready to go.
It seemed like a lot of guys, though, on the defensive side of the ball, when they found out about it, they were pretty excited. That they feel like he's still got some gas in the tank. Are you there, Qadry? I think we may have lost Qadry. Are you there, Qadry?
All right. It's real. Good.
You can tell he said he's at a golf simulation, so we're actually talking to him while he's at some sort of get together. Qadry, are you there? I think we might have lost Qadry.
Uh-oh, I got you.
Oh, no, it's okay. It sounds like you're having a good time over there.
No, this my phone connected over to the Bluetooth, but go ahead.
No worries. Speaking of the, on the JPP thing, it seemed like as players on the defensive side of the ball found out about it, they sounded like they were pretty excited about the idea of him coming over, and there's some thought that he still has some gas left in the tank.
Yeah, well, the thing is, they're thin at that rush position. There's guys like Ajabo who is coming in to this team as a rookie, but has some Achilles issues, and they're working on that. They have Tyus Bowser, Achilles issues. They're working on getting him back, and he's closer to returning. But the bottom line is that you got to get off to a fast start in the AFC, and I think that with getting a pass rush of the quality of JPP, it will be an opportunity to hopefully have them, be consistent and get to the quarterback, which will help them get off to that fast start. Closing out games is where you're going to need a pass rusher, the likes of JPP.
Let me get you out on this one. The Lamar Jackson contract story consumed so much of the offseason and then the preseason, and then they basically squashed it and said, all right, we'll continue this when the season is done. So he's playing for his next contract. It seems to be on the back burner. As a player, or as a former player, how difficult is it to compartmentalize in such a way that you can just put that aside and go play the games and not think about that at all?
So he's a unique player, generational talent, and what we're seeing is him being a unique business person. His mindset from writing children's books to potentially opening up, local restaurants in the area, to going to training camp, knowing that you're negotiating your contract because you don't have an agent, and you're doing what you feel you need to do what's best for your self, and at the same time, just play ball. Like he has come in, like I said, to camp, played, distraction free as far as preparing himself. And then the first 2 weeks of the season, he's on an MVP type pace that we saw in 2019. He's done a fabulous job of just honing in on what he feels he needs to do to be successful.
Are you keen on the idea of him representing himself? I mean, it's very rare to have a player do that, especially a player of his prominence. What did you make of that decision?
I mean, I thought it was a very shrewd business move, and what we are seeing is it potentially is going to pay off. And I know that he's had some I shouldn't say help, but some advice / have some advisors from the NFL Players Association make sure that what he's in line to get is just. And obviously, when you look at the resume of whether it be a Russell Wilson, whether it be Kyler Murray, or obviously the elephant in the room is Deshaun Watson. I mean, those contracts, they continue to escalate, and the guarantees in the elephant in the room, to be honest with you, is the fully guarantee of Deshaun Watson. And I think that's where the sticking point is for, Baltimore. I know Stephen Bisciotti talked about, not wanting to fully guarantee the contract, but he has a lot of leverage. And I think the more he plays and shows his value, the better. Now, they do have the franchise tag, but that's $47 million. So regardless, I think he's in a position and the seat of power, and kudos to him for wanting to do it his way. And his way is not having an agent. Rightly
or wrongly, do you think he ultimately gets judged on what he does in the postseason, though? I mean, he could put up great regular season numbers. The contract offer they made him was what it was. It didn't have all the guarantees he wanted. At the end of the day, is he going to be judged on what he does in terms of his postseason numbers first and foremost?
Well, I think every quarterback, they're going to be looked at, especially this class. Joe Burrow is going to be judged on whether or not he can get back to the game. I'm sure Patrick Mahomes is going to be judged on how many can he get, and if he can compete with the likes of, the legacy of a Tom Brady or Joe Montana. You look at what's that guy up in Buffalo? My mind is
Josh Allen.
But
Josh Allen.
Allen. Josh is in the scenario where he got paid, but he came up short as well. Did he have a thrilling game against the Kansas City Chiefs and all the things? Sure, but they still came up short. They're all going to be judged by it. The fact that Lamar has put himself in that conversation, and it has an MVP, whether it be postseason or regular season, it doesn't matter. He's still got an MVP trophy, and I think he's shown his talent is the bottom line. He has a winning record, an obscenely good winning record. I think it was like 37 or now 38 and 17 or whatever it might be, but he's proven himself as a winner. I think ultimately that's what it comes down to, and every quarterback that is those top tier quarterbacks, they're going to be judged on, yes, those postseasons. Kyler Murray got paid, but he had nothing really to show from a 500 record. I mean, he's below 500. So, that to me says a lot. He's worthy of that contract because that's what Arizona felt that he was. And I think Lamar Jackson, ultimately, from a legacy standpoint, the moment he was drafted, he was like, hey, I'm about winning the Super Bowl. So I believe him. I think he's headstrong and disciplined enough to, continually just expand on his game. We've seen it for the first two games so far, and I think as long as he stays healthy, the team stays healthy, I think they're on track to, get into the postseason and go far.
Qadra Ismail, former NFL wide receiver. Catch him on the postgame locally on WJZ in Baltimore. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the game.
Thank you so much for having me on.
All right, stay with us. Lots more to do. Final hour of a Friday cash-in right around the corner on Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. One more hour.
This show's flying by tonight.
Good. Well, it was kind of determined since yesterday. I was more concerned about yesterday's show than today's show.
Let's see. Best college.
I will say this, though. If he does get 7 on 5, maybe he might think about it. Nah, you got to get in the 7-10s.
Yeah, I mean.
But here's what the question I wanted to ask was, do you think a guy like Pujols thinks, damn, maybe if they had changed the rules from DH maybe 4 years ago?
Yeah. Well, when did he leave the Angels? How long has it been since he left the Angels?
He went to the Angels, to the Dodgers, and then the Dodgers to St. Louis.
So he spent 1 year in LA with the Dodgers?
I want to say he spent 2 years with the Dodgers.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Because he almost won a title with the Dodgers.
Over in college teams.
No, you're right. It was only
it's 1 year, right?
No, it's not even 1 year. It's half a year.
Right, because he got let go.
He just basically went down to.
He got let go in 2021 by the Angels. I don't know why I thought it was 2020.
I thought it was 2022, but it was 2021.
Huh.
Yeah. Ugh. I mean, he hit 17 home runs last year.
In how many at bats?
6. 275.
So similar to this year.
And he's hit 21 and 283 at bats.
Yeah, it's similar.
And 286 at bats. Yeah, whatever.
The crazy part is how many of the home runs he's had in the last 2 months. I'd love to see what the splits are for August.
Probably feeling good.
August and September. I'd love to know how many home runs he's had.
The body's feeling good. That's all.
Didn't fit. Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Didn't fit. Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. Remember these words. Remember these words.
I got the full home run call on Pujols is 700. I want to play it.
Did you see that tweet by Jay Crowder?
No.
This was 10 minutes ago. Dwayne Rankin, there will be plenty to watch in St. Sun's training camp. Team vibe amid Robert Sarver backlash. DeAndre Ayton mindset. Will Jay Crowder or Cam Johnson start? Dario Saric return from injury. Chris Paul's rest. Jay Crowder responded, 99 won't be there.
That's great. That's funny.
Yeah. These are some tough times for the NBA. They're not. They usually handle controversy with grace. I don't know if they're trying to. NFL doesn't handle controversy with grace. The NFL just use a lead fullback.
They just bulldoze through it. They just bulldoze through it.
That's what I'm saying. They just use a lead fullback. Yeah, they use a lead fullback to lead them through. The NBA, this is like a fast break that it's 2 on front fast break, and they're going for the crazy no-look pass, but a simple bounce pass would just do.
Yeah. All right, stand by. Not just another hour. No. Final hour of a Friday night show. Or Saturday morning if you're on the East Coast. Good to have you with us. A history-making night in Los Angeles where Albert Pujols did this.
Pujols sends one in the air. It's deep to left. Taylor's back at the wall. It's 700. Albert Pujols has joined the 700 home run club.
I love that the announcer just let that breathe on the Apple TV call right after Pujols hit the home run. By the way, the coolest thing about that, and we obviously aren't showing the video of it on our video stream. I didn't have the video of it. But the coolest part about that was Pujols crossed home plate and his Cardinal teammates were all holding their hands out. He made a beeline for the netting behind home plate and gave a high five to Adrian Beltre, who was sitting behind home plate first. That's pretty cool. He ran straight for him. Gave him actually a high 10 through the netting. That's awesome. What a special night in Los Angeles. And you would have thought the game was in St. Louis as loud as the crowd was. Obviously, Pujols having spent a half a season there and endearing himself to Dodger fans in that short amount of time that he was there. But what a special night in Los Angeles. Albert Pujols home run number 700. So some history was made. A certain Yankee didn't get his 61st home run, probably much to the delight of Michael Kay, who wants to call the game for yes instead of having to watch it on Apple TV. It's an easy decision if you're the Chargers. I'll tell you what it is as we continue. I'm Jason Page at Sports Map Radio. All righty.
I love how all these people are supporting women's soccer.
Women's soccer?
Mm-hmm.
Who's supporting it?
A lot of the NFL sideline reporters are supporting, and even all the women broadcasters are supporting it. Seemed like there must have been a big game the other day because I see Alex Curry, see Katie Nolan posting pictures. Shit reminded me of that concert Tuesday. I'm like, wait a minute, you were at the concert? You were at the concert? No, you know how everybody is. We all run to our social medias and just start, uploading stuff. And
sure.
Then you start realizing, like, wait a minute, this person was at the concert?
Oh, I see what you mean.
This person? Yeah, it was like that. It was like, oh, you went to the concert? Oh, you were at the concert? Like, literally, Jason was really, there was probably at least 100 people that I knew that went to the concert that just started uploading videos and pictures.
92 and 58. So the Yankees. Wow, Yankees have won 5 in a row. Didn't realize that.
Good thing for the Yankees that both the Rays and Blue Jays are playing each other.
Well, that was why even when the lead got down to it was 3 games or 2.5, everybody with any sort of brain knew the Yankees were still going to win that division. Because Tampa Bay and Toronto had to play each other so much, they had to play Baltimore. The Yankees had the easiest schedule of the entire lot, so that's why I never really panicked about it.
So what's their magic number now? It's 5?
I don't know. Not sure. I mean, they're 9. They're up 9 on in the loss column, so it's got to be less than that. Oh no, it might 5. Yeah, 5. Actually, you're right. No, it's 4. Sorry, I'm looking right at it. Yeah, it's 4 after tonight.
Oh, because Tampa won.
Baltimore's just 3 behind Seattle for the last wild card spot.
Seattle just took a major blow. What's the name?
I saw Julio. Yeah, hold on. Come back. Yes, it does. Good to have you with us. Anybody who's anybody of a certain age remembers the Oj Simpson trial back in the day. Trial seen around the world. What really made court TV was the Oj Simpson trial. All these, court analysts, the Greta Van Susterns of the world, and Roger Cossack and Dan Abrams and all these people had their careers made by it. We all remember watching. I was in high school. I think it was junior or senior year of high school when the trial was going on. I can't remember.
94.
Yeah. So the Juice was on trial, and there was the famous moment in the courtroom with Johnny Cochran. I love that Johnny Cochran. Where Johnny Cochran was in the courtroom, and they had this whole exhibit going on with a glove that they had OJ try on, and it went horribly wrong for the prosecution, Marsha Clark and the LA County prosecutors. And there was a moment. There was a moment where Johnny Cochran uttered one of the great lines in legal history. You might remember it.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Yeah, Johnny said it. If the glove don't fit, you must acquit.
That was one of OJ's greatest acting jobs ever.
Pretending he couldn't get the gloves on. Yeah.
Oh, better than Norbit.
They put on that on top of it. They put the rubber gloves on underneath. What were they expecting? Anyway, the line was, "If the glove don't fit, you must acquit." Well, I've got one that I want to use for the NFL as it relates to Justin Herbert and whether or not he's going to play this weekend for the Chargers. You might recall he banged up his ribs in the Week 2 loss to the Chiefs. And there's this question about whether or not he's going to play this week as a result of the rib injury he sustained. And I will use this line when it comes to Justin Herbert. Here it is. Ready? If there's any doubt, you sit him out. And if the Chargers are dumb enough to take their franchise quarterback, who could barely, move on Friday, who's clearly got a rib injury that everybody knows about, if you're going to put in week 3, if you're going to put potentially your entire season at risk by putting him on the field, then everybody in this organization deserves to be taken out back and, put out to pasture. You're playing Jacksonville in Los Angeles. If you can't figure out a way to win that game with Chase Daniels, and even if you can't figure out a way to win that game without Chase Daniels, you cannot put your entire season at risk. If there's any doubt whatsoever that Justin Herbert shouldn't play, and I looked at one headline today, and it just drove me nuts. Chargers weighing, quote, risk-reward of QB playing in week 3 as Chase Daniels takes first-team reps. Risk-reward? Even if you win, you might still lose. What was that line from White Men Can't Jump? Gloria's like, sometimes you win and you actually lose. Sometimes you lose and you actually win. Sometimes you win or lose, but you actually tie. Something like that. If you're the Chargers, there is no scenario that makes sense to have Justin Herbert out there if he did not practice because these ribs are still an issue for him. And I get the fact that he's had, it'll be 10 days off, and somebody might want to make the argument that, 10 days for a rib injury, but ribs are very tricky. There is no standard amount of time for how quickly an injury like this is going to heal. Sometimes they heal quickly, sometimes they don't. And there's nothing to be gained by the Chargers in week 3. If this is week 16 or week 17 and you need a win and it's about winning the division or trying to get into the playoffs, if you want to weigh risk reward, then okay. But in week 3, there's no game at 1-1. There is no game for the Chargers that is so important in week 3 that you need to have him out on the field. Listed as questionable, limited in practice Wednesday and Thursday, did not practice Friday. You cannot put him on the field on Sunday. Let him heal. According to NFL Network's Bridget Condon, Herbert said the plan was always to not throw or practice Friday, that it was not related to Thursday's practice. Dealing with discomfort caused by the rib cartilage injury. Again, this is your franchise quarterback. And we've all seen what he can do. And people could talk about the fact that the Chargers haven't figured out how to close some games. They lost some close games last year. They lost the close game on last Thursday. I mean, you can get into all that stuff you want. But the fact of the matter is, this guy is your quarterback for the next 10 to 12 years. And you cannot risk jeopardizing his future. And on top of that, this is already an organization that's dealing with a lawsuit. I mean, this should be the easiest decision in the world in light of the lawsuit that popped up, a week or two ago from Tyrod Taylor, the former Chargers backup, who's suing the organization for basic malpractice, medical malpractice, or malfeasance at the very least, for how they handled his injury. What, didn't he wind up with like a lacerated liver? I mean, come on. If you're an organization and you're dealing with that, this decision just got 100 times easier for you. Brandon Staley said the day after his team's loss to the Chiefs, Herbert had a rib cartilage fracture. He was day-to-day. X-rays showed he did not have any fractured bones. But you just can't do it. And Herbert's going to tell you he wants to play. Herbert's going to tell you, I want to be out there. And sometimes you have to protect players from themselves. It's great to have a guy that's going to run through a wall for you. But if he's going to run through a wall and break his neck, it doesn't make sense. This does not make sense for this Chargers organization. They can beat Jacksonville with Chase Daniels. Are the odds good? No, they're obviously better if Chase Daniel was out there. But you got a fighting chance with Chase Daniel in that game on Sunday. By the way, the current line is Chargers minus 3.5. LA minus 3.5 on Sunday against the Jaguars, who have been a bit of a surprise early in the season with the way they've played. We had Matt Verderam on before the season started with Fansided, their national NFL reporter, and he was high on Jacksonville. That was one of his dark horse picks. By the way, we got Paige's picks coming up about 30 minutes from now on the show. And I got to tell you, I've got 3 games I really like. I'm a little stuck on the 4th. I've got a few written down. But I'm a little stuck on the 4th. I'm obviously not going to scoop myself and tell you what the games are. You got to wait until the end of the show because I am 6-3 on the year. So you should want my picks. You should be waiting with breath that is bated for my picks. But
66%.
66%.
66%,
yeah.
baby. All NFL picks the first 2 weeks. Call Jason Page right now.
I would never in 100 years want to be responsible for that. Especially when I see how a lot of these... I don't want to... I'm going to get myself in trouble. How some of these hucksters, these fraudsters out there that have jobs picking games. Yeah, these people picking games for a living, and then you look at their actual record. Because guess what? There's a record of all these things. So when you suck now, people know it. Joe Fortenbaugh. God. Anita Marks, who's like 60 games under 500. She picks everything but her nose, though, I have to say. She picks a zillion games. No, she does. She picks a million games. So I'm just saying. But Fortenbaugh's a fraud. He's a guy who knows how to dress on TV, and then he goes out and makes terrible picks. And they keep putting him on. It's like no responsibility to your audience for them losing money. It's for entertainment purposes only. No, it's not. Losing money is not entertaining. Glad I don't take that guy's picks. This is a true story. I'm going to get myself in so much trouble, but I was literally sitting in the bathroom one day at 95.7 The Game in San Francisco, the FM sports talk station there. I was hosting the show after the morning drive show. This was 2017. And Fortenbaugh was doing the show before me. And he gave out like 4 picks or whatever, 5 picks on the Friday show. It was a Friday show. And he went like 1-4. And I crushed him for it. And he went, obviously he whined about it. And I think he said something to like the assistant program director and got all bent out of shape about it. But it's like, dude, if you're going to put yourself out there and claim that you're some pickster and you can't even pick games, I mean, my God. Just do your job better. Or don't complain if you get crushed and then I crush you. That's all. Simple as that. At any rate, we will continue with the show. We'll tell you what's going on in the baseball wildcard races tonight. NL East, AL Central, which is just about a wrap. The NL Central and the NL East, and we'll let you know what's going on in the wildcard races as well. We'll also have Paige's picks just under 30 minutes from now, so you'll want to stick around for that too. 800-224-2004, 800-224-2004 on Twitter. At the back page, you can reach me there. I'm Jason Page. Glad you're with us. Sports Map Radio. Oh, he got so mad.
This guy was on there. He's been on everywhere tonight.
Who?
This past weekend.
Who?
Bennett, whatever the guy that you got beef with.
Oh, Joe Fortenbaugh? He's so bad.
That guy.
It's like, how can you be that bad?
Hey, let me ask you this: is he part of your tribe?
No.
Wow,
No.
really?
No,
Okay.
not at all. What? Because he knows how to dress?
No, he looks it. I don't care if you know how to dress. Many people know how to dress.
Joe Fortenbaugh. See, how did Colin Cowherd do on his Blazing 5 last week? He had Patriots minus 2.5.
No, he probably went 3-2, I think.
Lions minus 1.5. Saints plus 2.5. Packers
Saints
minus
lost.
9.5. Eagles minus 1.5.
Oh, no, he went 4-1 then.
Patriots. So his losses were Patriots
you know
minus 2.5. Oh, yeah. Who?
Miami. Buffalo's is out 4 starters on
Yeah,
defense.
I know. Ed Oliver's missing.
And they're starting 2 rookie cornerbacks in the secondary.
Oh, Anita Marks. She said Saints money line against the Bucks last week. She got the under right in the Patriots and Steelers.
That wasn't hard. Everybody got that right. You got it right.
Yeah. Can't take it.
I'll be right back.
What? How many miles are in the car? About 25 minutes from now, we'll have Paige's picks. I'm feeling good about 3 of them. I'm a little hung up on the 4th. 6-3 through 2 weeks on the season. That's a 66% winning clip, which I think most people would sign up for. I think if you're doing that in the betting landscape, you're making some money, making you some cash. Craig Kimbrel, by the way, out as Dodgers closer. I mean, for a team, it's kind of funny. I mean, a lot of people wonder about of all the things, they wonder about the pitching with the Dodgers. And you got to be able to close out games, man. You take it for granted when you have a great closer that just consistently closes out games. I mean, as a Yankee fan, we were spoiled forever with Mariano Rivera, who was the closest thing to automatic. And even he had a couple of instances where he failed to get the job done in the postseason. But you look at it over the the term of his career and what he meant to the Yankees out of the bullpen. You just take it for granted when you have somebody that good closing out games for you for so long. And as good as the Dodgers are, Major League Baseball postseason games are decided by a run. They're close, and you're biting your nails at the end of the game with a 1-run lead or a 2-run lead and a runner on base, and you got to have a guy that can close games out. I've never been a big Craig Kimbrel guy. Go look through my Twitter timeline and just do a search, and you'll find instances where I crushed Craig Kimbrel a long time ago because I was never a big believer in him. At this stage of his career, I'm definitely not a big believer in him. That's who the Dodgers have closing out games. And they may get Atlanta in the divisional series round, which we talked about last night on the show. And that is the worst case scenario. I would want no part of the Braves in the second round if I'm the Dodgers, and that might be very much what they get. All right, what happened tonight, and how does it matter to the baseball playoff races? Let's give it to you straight. The Orioles staying around. They closed to within 3 in the AL wildcard race. And here's the bottom line with the Orioles. I know people are going to say, well, you get in or you don't. It's September 23rd, and we're talking about the Orioles still very much alive in the AL wildcard race. And they shut out the Astros tonight. That's a good baseball team. They shut them out 6-0. I think they beat them last night, 5-0 or 2-0. I mean, they're pitching. Orioles relievers, I think, have only had to pitch like an inning and a third the last 3 days or 2 days. Their starting pitching has been insane. They got a complete game tonight from Dean Kramer. And if you don't know who Dean Kramer is, figure it out. Complete game, 4-hitter, pitching to a 3 ERA. It is something. Adley Rutschman with a home run tonight. And Baltimore wins 6-0. That combined with a Seattle loss has the Orioles within those 3 games that I mentioned in the AL wildcard race. Mariners lost in Kansas City tonight 5-1, and it gets worse for the Mariners. They just had to put their star Julio Rodriguez on the disabled list, the injury list, at the worst time of the year to possibly do that. He's got a back strain. How the hell you strain your back? 20 years old, 21 years old. Come on. Who hurts their back at that age? I didn't. And by the way, Julio Rodriguez is going to win the AL Rookie of the Year, but there's 2 other guys who could definitely make a case for it. One of them tonight was in that game against Seattle. Bobby Witt Jr. has had a heck of a rookie season. 254, 77 RBIs on the year. The future is bright. At least for that kid it is. 254, 20, and 77 with 28 stolen bases. So everybody talks about Julio going 20-20. Bobby Witt Jr. did it too. And then the other guy is Jeremy Pena, who's had an amazing rookie campaign with the Astros. He's another guy you're going to want to keep an eye on. Average has dropped a bit, but dealt with some injuries. He's going to be a good player. So 3 games separates the Seattle Mariners from the Orioles in that wild card race, as I said. So that's where we stand there. Cleveland wins again tonight. The White Sox are dead and buried. Cleveland's going to win the AL Central. And that's basically all you need to know from the American League. Yankees' magic number is 4 to clinch the AL East. Cleveland's magic number is 4 to clinch the AL Central. And Houston's obviously already clinched. All right, National League, Mets tonight. The Mets tonight get a win in Oakland, beat the A's 9-2, taking care of business, doing what they're supposed to do against that team. Good start for Chris Bassett. 8 innings of 2-run ball. So the Mets now in the NL East are 2 games clear of Atlanta because the Braves lost tonight. So the Braves have dropped 3 straight. Not a good time to have that happen. Losing in Philadelphia. And again, you're getting a lot of this attrition with these divisional matchups late in the season and teams knocking each other off. And that's a big win for Philadelphia because they're trying to hold off Milwaukee, as is San Diego, who's lost 2 straight now, and Milwaukee is just 2 behind San Diego for the 3rd wild card spot as the Brewers won their 3rd in a row. So Milwaukee's still very much in the mix as far as the wild card race is concerned. St. Louis has pretty much wrapped up the NL Central. Your 3 wild card teams right now in the National League are Atlanta, Philadelphia, and San Diego. Again, Philly with 67 losses, San Diego with 68, Milwaukee with 70. Only 2 of those teams are going to get in. Like the way Milwaukee's playing, though, right now, showing some heart after a tough month of August and an early September. They had a similar slide to what the Yankees had. Didn't play well for a while. Still trying to rebound. But interesting news on Los Angeles with Craig Kimbrel being taken out of the closer spot with just, a couple of weeks left in the season. Interesting to see if that is a move that carries through to the postseason, what they do in the meantime in that spot. All right, we still got Paige's picks to come. I've got 3 that I love. I've got 1 that I'm not crazy about, and I've got to figure out how to weave a 4th pick in there. I've got 3 games that I like, though. I've been fighting with it all day. Roger Federer said farewell on Friday at the Laver Cup. I got a thought about that before we go as well. I want to talk about his amazing career, and also one of the strangest things I think anybody's probably ever seen happen live at a sporting event took place at that Laver Cup earlier in the day before Federer and Nadal lost in a doubles match to Sock and Tiafoe. But just a strange set of circumstances before that Federer match took place tonight. And it was emotional, as you would expect it to be. But Roger Federer bowing out with the grace and class that really he carried himself with throughout his entire career. So stick around. Don't go anywhere. Keep the dial where it is. Paige's picks around the corner. Going to try and make you some money this weekend. Lots more to do as we continue on the Cash In. Sports Map Radio and the Sports Map Radio app.
How do you get out of a group conversation in the text?
What'd you say?
How do you get out of a group text?
I don't know how you leave a group text. I don't think you can.
Especially if one person is not an iPhone user.
Yes, and that's where it becomes. It's funny because I just had this happen last week. Same exact thing. Person wasn't an iPhone user, and I had to just start the whole group chat over.
But it shows me somewhere I left the conversation.
All right, I got the 4th game. Not in love with it.
I wonder what it is.
Yeah, you're going to find out in a minute. Ba-da-bum-ba-ba. What are you doing this weekend? Anything good? You working?
No games this weekend. I think, but once next week starts, once the NBA starts, we're probably gonna have to, depending on what's going on your, on our end over here. I'm probably gonna be doing a lot of Heat games.
I got it. Listen, it's
yeah.
It's just going to depend on how quick any of these deals come through. If it's a deal I cut, the thing is, if it's a deal that I cut as opposed to a deal
Go see some classic hip hop DJs on Sunday.
Oh, that's cool.
De La Soul, Lord Finesse, and DJ Maceo. So next week, October 1st. Next week's show will be October 1st.
Yes. It will. No. Next week will not be an October show. September 30th is Friday.
30th, that's right.
Yeah.
Well,
and my husband's going away for the week. So I got the dog by myself for a week.
Yeah, well, you got quiet.
That's true. There won't be any noise. He's going to Virginia for the week for work.
Oh.
Richmond, to be exact.
Ugh. A lot of bad history there.
Yes, exactly.
A lot of bad history there.
Yep.
Moxley's a champ.
Yeah.
For a short time.
Dude, not for nothing. You know climate change is real when hurricanes are hitting Canada.
Canada, bro. It's crazy.
Dude, and you guys are going to get hit mid next week on the west coast of Florida. Like Fort Myers over there. Fort Myers is going to get blasted. Yeah. They're talking about a Category 3, and I got a friend over there. Oh, we're coming back. All right, one of my dirty pleasures is the show on Netflix, Cobra Kai. Anybody who's of a certain age, again, I'm mid-40s. I grew up with the Karate Kid and Ralph Macchio and all that stuff. Last night, I said, let me watch the first 2 episodes of Season 5 of Cobra Kai. This was about 11:15. Show ends at 10 here on the West Coast. So let me start watching. About 11 o'clock, 11:15, I start watching. Watch the first episode, watch the second. 4:30 in the morning, I watched the whole 5th season, all 10 episodes. No, neither of you two watch Cobra Kai? No, Austin? No. Well, Austin, you're probably too young. No, Vlad? No?
No, I watched the first 2 seasons. I'm good.
Oh, you watched the first 2 seasons, and you didn't watch anymore? Got pretty good. It's a little.
I'll binge watch it.
Yeah, it's a fun watch.
I'll binge watch.
Austin, no. Yeah, you're too young. How old are you? Yeah, you're 25. Forget it. Karate Kid to you is lost on you. Well, Karate Kid is lost on you if you're 25. I mean, it was part of our childhood.
Yeah, he's crane kicking other things.
Good line to end the show again, Vlad. Nice job. Wow. It's twice this week. It's going to do it for us. Have a great weekend, Vlad.
You too, Paige.
Yeah. It's executive producer Vladimir Lewisant. Thanks to Austin Rodriguez back in Houston at Master Control. I'm Jason Page. Have a great weekend. Follow me on Twitter at The Back Page. And thanks for listening to The Cash In on Sports Map Radio. Bye. Thanks, Austin. Hey, did I give you a 4th segment, or did I only tell you the 3?
You only said that this is the first segment of the second hour.
Because I gave you the 2 interviews, the first segment of the first hour.
Second hour.
And then
the first segment, second hour.
Yeah, Austin, I want the segment I did on sports not being fair. I want that. So 4 segments in the podcast. Thank you, sir. Have a great weekend. All right, bye-bye. Baby shark. I gotta go out to L.A. tomorrow. Well, not L.A. I gotta go to Diamond Bar, which is a little ways away from L.A. But I gotta go to Diamond Bar.
You have to play golf?
No, actually, I'm playing golf Sunday morning here in Palm Springs. It's probably going to be the last round I play for a while because they close the courses for October, and then when they reopen them, it's like $150 a round. You can get in cheap until like October, and then for like 6 months, it's just stupid. I don't make that kind of money. No, it's just because everybody's traveling here for the winter, and all the snowbirds start coming down, and they can charge whatever they want because people will pay it because it's the most beautiful place in the country for
golf.
Well, for 5 months, it's paradise here. I mean, the weather's just amazing here. Once we hit October, that's it, man. This place is just infested with tourists. Like it's nuts. The population swells dramatically. For those watching the stream, check me out on Sunday morning. We'll have Paige's Picks, a Sunday edition. Maybe you get some different games. Maybe you'll get the same ones we did today. I don't know. Thanks for watching all week. I'll catch you back
Miami.
here. Yeah. What was that?
Dolphins.
Take the Dolphins. Vlad says take the Dolphins. There you go. See, now we'd have to see if you were around on Sunday mornings, Vlad. I would do we could do the Paige's Picks thing on Sunday and have you do it. Huh?
It's something called FaceTime.
Yeah, we would have to do. I'd want to do it as a video FaceTime thing because I'd want to have you on camera. Do you have earpods or do you only have the? Do you only have the ones with the cords?
No, I have the AirPods.
Do you? See, you should be able to talk through the AirPods and it should still sound decent. I mean, for the purposes of doing Paige's Picks, it should sound decent. Anyway, those on the